Another lovely day over here on Anglesey anyway. So we're looking forward to this morning's session, all about navigating grants, innovation and smart grants. We've got Louise Jones with us from Innovate UK, and we've also got Iwan Palmer from Welsh Government talking about the Smart Fizz grants. So we've got a lot to cover this morning. A little bit about Louise before we move forward. She's the regional manager for Wales with Innovate UK, has an energy background, also worked on knowledge as a knowledge transfer manager for KT Network, and also worked for Glyndŵr and Bang University for a number of years as a research fellow and R&D manager. So a wide-ranging background there, lots of experience there as well to share with you. Louise is going to talk to us about the Innovate UK grants and hints and tips, I suppose, about how to go about through the methods and the ways of applying for these grants and to be successful with them. So I'll hand over to Louise. I'll get the presentation up and we'll hand over to Louise for the next half hour.
Great, thank you. Do I get the slide?
Yeah.
Control. I'm not doing the switchy, whatever it's called.
No. So you should be able to see that now. Is that okay? Here we go.
Morning, everyone. Nice to see you. If you've not met me before, I've been in this patch for a long, long time. So if you haven't, I don't know why. My face seems to get everywhere at the moment. I joined Innovate UK in September, so I'm quite new in role, so be gentle with me. My job really is to try and encourage more organisations to think about Innovate UK funding. Don't be intimidated by it. I'm hoping that this session today is going to give you a few pointers on your journey towards securing funding. If you've not heard of Innovate UK before, we are the UK's innovation agency. Everything we do is business-led innovation. So if you're thinking around the kind of innovation circle, if there's a business led to it and you're partnering with academia, you have to have the business lead at the heart of what you're trying to achieve. And we are one of the, I guess, key bodies for delivering the UK government's innovation strategy. And we work very closely with our colleagues in Welsh Government. So I'm really, really glad that UM's here today to talk about Smart Fizz. Our mission is to help UK businesses grow, either through R&D, commercialisation, and ultimately anything to do with helping businesses think about their product journey, their services, and how we can, I guess, speed things up a little bit. There's not just me in the regional team, and I know regional isn't the best word for how we would consider Wales. I consider myself a national manager rather than a regional manager. We're very different to our English managers. But if you are crossing over the borders into any of my colleagues and want to think about either projects or funding that might relate to those, do ask me and I can connect you into other parts of my teammates. In October, we launched a collaboration innovation plan with Welsh Government, with Indra Mukherjee and Vaughan Gethin on stage during Wales Tech Week. And this is a really good example of us trying to cement our relationship of doing things together, how we can maybe better align and be a bit more strategic with partnering on things that are of benefit for things in Wales specifically, enhancing the innovation support and ultimately doing better with communications and engagement. I'm very much aware that sometimes organisations in Wales don't hear of UK-wide funding, so are we not preaching to you enough? So answers on a postcard for that. If you're not aware of opportunities, nudge me and I'll find out who can tell you about opportunities. Typically, Innovate UK funding competitions, they would all be on the IFS website. So this is where all the magic happens, but I wouldn't say it's the most easy website to navigate. Everything that we fund is competitive. It has to have a competitive nature and it will be assessed by neutral people to the leads that would be running a funding call. Often it is challenge based as well as open calls. So we have our catch-all, our equivalent of the smart grant, which can be for any sector with quite a range of funding opportunities. I have got a slide on that shortly. If you aren't aware of some of the opportunities, there are lots of newsletters that you can sign up for with Innovate UK KTN. And if you're looking for partners and collaborations and sectoral insights, I would always champion them. And also I can see that Jamie's online, Innovate UK Edge, if you're looking at how you grow and scale and need regional connections. And if you're thinking about writing a grant, you've never done it before, I would suggest you get in touch in terms of grant reviewing. And KTN produced a good application guide, which I've stolen some content on in my tips section. And always have a look at it. If you've never done it before, it's a really good kind of checklist of what you should be considering if you're thinking about applying for a grant. So at the moment, as of last night, there were 35 live competitions. You can filter by sector at the top there and the keywords, but sometimes the system isn't that clever. So you might put a word in and then find that a funding call that's relevant to you has been filtered out. I had a net zero launchpad recently, and I put the word launchpad in and my funding call didn't come up. So just be a little bit savvy. You can work through 35 and have a look at it. But as you become more aware of how the system works, keywords does seem to work. And I've put the link in there. These slides I'm happy for these to be shared afterwards. So I picked out a few, given that this is a net zero theme. There probably are a few more on the system that may be of interest, but I didn't want to be here all day talking to you about funding opportunities. There's plenty out there for you to kind of get your teeth stuck into. This is one where we're actually partnering with DEFRA, so it's quite a nice mix where we're actually joining forces here on collaboration, and it's up to 5 million. It actually opens on Monday. I don't know when the online briefing session is for it yet, so this is one in the future. There's at least a good lead up time for you to think about this project, and it's quite a nice funding level. But ultimately, the kind of biodiversity, soils, greenhouse gases and ammonia emissions, which are a hot topic, and I know there's a lot of expertise in Wales around that area. I know that we've got a really good agriculture and rural farming community within Wales, and this is a really, really nice one, another example of DEFRA. It's quite a significant project, so I would say if you're a little business, you need to be in a consortia for this. There is a consortia building link. That's actually opened this week, so the online briefing has happened, but the recording will be made available. But if you think, do you know, this is really interesting, I feel I've got some part of this mix that I've got expertise in, have a look on the consortia building. I can link you into an Innovate UK KTN colleague if you're really struggling, but it's a really good opportunity to be involved in a big project. And if I were to ever give guidance, if you've never applied into Innovate UK funding before, and you can find a consortia, work with a consortia first, it really helps you learn the lessons, learn the speak of a grant, you know, all the wording and nomenclature, and someone else that's probably been through those pain points can really help you learn a lot. So I'm not saying never go for it on your own. I'm not encouraging you to run for the hills when you see an Innovate UK grant, but if there's a partnership that somebody's got experience ahead of you, grab it, get your arms around them and give them a big friendly hug. This is quite an interesting one. So this is all around the automotive sector, but net zero does play a part of it. There's quite a lot of opened calls this week, so there's quite a lot of opportunities within this space. Again, I know there's expertise around how we kind of decarbonise vehicles, and what I found was interesting here is that normally motorbikes and two-wheelers have never been in any scope. So if you're in that kind of vehicle net zero space, this one is certainly worth having a look at. And we've got some really good transport colleagues you could have a chat to if that was of interest. A hot topic that's kind of a global thing on the decarbonisation of concrete. I wouldn't say I'm necessarily an expert in this one, but it's quite a materials-based call, but it is ultimately around kind of getting rid of emissions. So if you think you're in this sweet spot, this is a really good opportunity, and they're quite a small length of project size, so less intimidating than like a 3-year commitment that you're signing up for. Net zero living is a bit of a different type of funding that is kind of new to Innovate UK. It's far more on the digital side of things. We're very much aware that yes, everybody's thinking net zero, but there's an awful lot of kind of data that could really help in that journey. So if you're in either the side where you're in the tech side, or you've got some understanding of how the digital and data would fit into that, this is a really good call. However, it closes next week. So if you're not already kind of engaging with someone, I would say have a look, see what the scope is. I suspect this will come again. And what I like with this is it can link to some of the local authorities. So it's not just about industry, it's, you know, kind of a regional approach to things. I've got to say about our smart grants, they are really there for like a catch-all for anything that you're thinking at. There's no sectoral thematic. I would always guide you, if there's a thematic call you can go for, stick to a thematic. smart, you will be competing with anything from hydrogen to transport to agriculture to absolutely everything. And we hear of success rates of 90% where you're passing in the kind of question and answers, and people still not getting funding. So you really need a compelling case if you're thinking smart. And I'm not telling you not to go for it, but you really do need a compelling business case because you're competing with every sector and lots of different project sizes. So my guidance here would be getting a consortia that is really proven. And if there isn't a sectoral thematic, then definitely look at smart. It's not moved on. It's just whirring. It's a bit of a slow one. I'll try again. And then this is an unusual way that we're working more now strategically with investor partnerships. So this is combining an investor's need with Innovate UK funding. So if particularly if you're already talking to some of the investors that are on board of this, it's a really good opportunity to kind of have both things in one. You have to be an SME registered at the time the award is contracted. So if you're only starting out on your journey, you can kind of, do you know what, I've not quite thought about my business yet. Maybe I'll register my business, and there's a bit of time for you to line up things like the investor. It's relevant to net zero. So there are 3 thematics, but net zero was focused in there. But there's a few things that aren't in scope. So watch this one. If you're in any of the no scopes of the kind of batteries, resource efficiency, mobility, and heating and retrofit has been funded an awful lot. So don't waste your time if you're in those areas. But if you are in the capital intensive, critical circular power, particularly in the offshore side, which I know is quite a long list there, if you're in that sweet spot, I would suggest this is a really good opportunity to engage with. It is slow, isn't it? Yeah. It needs coffee. Yes. Okay, so I promised I'd give some helpful tips. I've read a few. I'm not allowed to read any in this job now, but I have seen the warts and all of people applying into grants. And my first point would be, make sure you align to the scope. So don't trying to squeeze your foot into a shoe that doesn't fit. If you aren't in that thematic, somebody will look at that scope. You will have wasted all of your time if you're not right for the scope. So please make sure. And I would always say, the customer support line at Innovate UK, if you're questioning whether you fit or not, put it in writing. And if customer support says, yes, we think you're in scope, you're in scope. And then if an assessor looked at it and said, I don't think it's in scope, you've got it in blood that you were in scope, and therefore it would go to an assessment. If it's out of scope, it won't go to an assessment, and you will have wasted all of your time writing this grant in the first place. So check that you are right fit for that opportunity. And definitely use the competition help desk, but give time. We promise a 2-day return, so don't ask the day before the deadline. Give a little bit of a lead to allow you time to kind of make sure that you're entering the right thing. Everything we fund is innovation led. So if it's not an innovative step, why are you asking Innovate UK for money? And it doesn't necessarily have to be, I guess, groundbreaking, something brand new that you've just invented that's never been seen before. If it's a step change, or you're applying something to a different sector and your innovation has never been seen in that sector before, it's still innovation and applying to a different sector. And my other thing here is make sure you've got the freedom to operate. So you're developing something new, check it's not been done somewhere before, and how are you the state of the art? So if you're doing something that's really innovative, what is out there now? If there's nothing out there now and you're completely new, wonderful. But if someone else is in competition with you, how is what you're doing miles better than what they're doing? And make sure you get that within your proposal. And the third point on this slide is the strong business case. If you've got a problem you're addressing and the market is, I don't know, you're going to sell 1 every 5 years, it's not really a big business case. But if you can see an opportunity where, hang on, there's nobody doing this, I've got a route to market and I can sell, I mean, it all depends on the value of what you're doing, but I can sell a lot to this company, and this company, and they're already engaging with me and say, if you can develop this, I will buy it. You've got a good business case. So therefore your credible business opportunity is clear. And the last point I would say there is how you will make money from the idea. Don't be deluded, or don't try and tell an assessor you're going to make 100% of the market. Be realistic. If you're new into that market, how much could you realistically like to achieve? Is it 5%, 2%, and over what time? Be realistic. Don't try and bamboozle and say, oh, I'm gonna make all of the market. You know, be realistic. These people that are assessing will understand your market a little bit and will know whether you're credible or not. I've put a pointer in item 4 around the Horizons tool set. So the value proposition is something that I think businesses often struggle with. We ask for what are the additional benefits around economical, social, environmental and regional. And sometimes the answers are given as very piecemeal and just a tick box exercise. Think about your project more broadly than this is the great innovation that you're developing. How will it benefit someone in the region? So is there supply chain consequences? Is there job growth? You know, would society benefit from what you're trying to do? So think more broadly about the project than just, this is really great innovation, we're going to make money out of it and the UK is going to prosper. And then point 5 is about a credible plan for how you're going to achieve that project. So, you know, I've put a very dull Gantt chart, I think, not a Gantt, on there, but make sure it's detailed enough so that it's clear that you've thought about your project and that it's not just, do you know what, I'm going to go to them with my begging bowl and they're going to give me money. What are your partnerships? Who's going to do what? What work packages are involved? What are your key deliverables? And I would always stress, you need project management. Don't deny that project management is part of your project or try and cover it up. Someone's going to manage this project delivery. It's not just getting a grant and running off and doing what you want to it. There's got to be a clear step of how you do that work. And then the 6th point is the right consortium. And I do frequently get asked of how many partners are sensible. How many partners does it take for you to achieve your project? Is it sometimes we will fund just you as one organisation, and there are funding opportunities for that. But if you feel you need a partner because they're the only company in the UK that will do this, then use them. If you think they will take no, they don't need any IP and you would rather subcontract them. But if it takes 2 of you to do the project or 10 of you to do the project, as long as each partner has a clear role and it's clear to an assessor that that partner's doing this part of the project, this partner's doing that part of the project, then that's clear. But don't hide gaps. So if you're missing something in your consortia, an assessor will see it. So don't try and bury it under the sofa like my kids do with slices of pizza. Try and highlight the fact that you might have to recruit for this, and this is a weakness. So you're being upfront and transparent all the way through. And if you are missing partners, I would say reach out to Innovate UK Edge or Innovate UK KTN and try and manipulate the brokerage of that partnership. Don't feel you've got to do it on your own. There are plenty of support people, organisations out there. And I would say, you know, the support you've got within this event today, use people that you know to try and help you get a better consortia. Point 7 is the clear need for support. If you would do this anyway, why are you asking for public purse? If you are thinking of doing this and you're maybe working in academia that you couldn't afford to fund yourself and that they're going to add some value to the project that you haven't got in your company, then you need public support. So think about that strategically and also highlight, why haven't you gone to the bank with this? Why is there not an investor ready to give you this money? So make sure you're thinking, right, the reason I've gone to Innovate UK is because I'm too early for an investor, my bank won't go for this sort of money. You've considered other options other than Innovate UK. And then point 8 on this slide is about risk. If there are no risks, why are you asking for money? You would have done it. So there's always got to be some element of risk. And I'm not saying it has to be, you know, risk of your handbrake coming off when you're going to go off a cliff, but real risks that would affect the project. Some of the commercial risks, some staffing risks. I often don't see risks of personnel identified in the risk register. But if somebody walked out of the project and they've got the brains of some part of it, you're at risk. So really think about it. Don't just think it's a tick box. Consider all of the aspects of that project. And then this is my best slide, and I'm going to give credit to Rod on this. From Bick, because I stole it from him, but it is one of my bugbears, is you get a question from us within our grant and there are bullet points and you need to address every bullet point. If you recall doing exams and you would get, say, 5 points, you would generally have 5 things that you would need to say. So I would say, if you're looking at this example, there are 7 bullet points, if my eyesight serves me right. go through it and make sure you've addressed each one of those bullet points, and probably in order. If you think an assessor might be reading 30 of these, it's really easy for them to look through 1, 2, 3, 4, right, yes, they've addressed that point, yes, they've addressed that point, no, they've not done number 3, and they will score it on the basis that you've ticked all of those. It sounds simple, it is simple if you stick to it, but don't think, oh, I can't do that bit. You know, make sure that you address all of the bullet points, and the word count is critical. So if you go over the word count, it won't let you. So make sure that you are thinking about the words, and you can do it concisely. And if you can't fit it into a section, often we have appendix that you can add stuff to. So particularly around the team side, don't try and cram lots of things into the team section or identify all of your risks within the narrative. There are appendix that you can put things in. So if you're thinking, oh gosh, I really want to get all of this across, if there's an appendix, use the appendix and pull out the key things of the appendix into the narrative. So if you think of risks, I would say pick the 3 that would be a real stuck you good and proper if you couldn't do that, rather than listing all 10, the ones that would really stop the project from proceeding. And then I guess the last thing, and this I've seen this happen at my Net Zero Launchpad, which closed in December. I saw this happen. Somebody emailed me to say, I can't get on the system with 2 days to go. Please get an account created straight away. Get your login, because you have to wait to be approved and verified on the system. So don't leave it till the night before the deadline. It's not signing you up. If you proceed, have a look at the grant, decide you're not going to do it, you don't have to do it. You don't have to go any further. But by submitting and getting the account live, at least you've got over that hurdle instantly. So you think, oh, that's interesting, I'll create an account, and now I know I'm on the system, so there's no issues around that. And also, if partners need to enter anything, make sure that they filled in their details too, so they've got access. So if they need to put some of their finance in, make sure that your whole consortia is also covered their backside. Check the date and time the competition closes. It's typically 11 o'clock now, but I think the smart one is 12, which threw me when I was looking at this last night. We had moved to 11 o'clock, but for that one we haven't. And don't leave it till the last minute to submit. I'm going to show you my last. This is old, this is very dated in terms of, but this is exactly as it is. I saw this with my Net Zero Launchpad. Plenty of people the hour before the call were submitting their applications. Now you can submit and add extra things to it, but if your system goes down and you are a minute late, tough, we will not allow you to submit. So make sure that you submit something before the deadline and don't leave it till the last hour before, because if the software goes down, customer support is not going to be able to help you if the whole of the system is down. So think in advance. I would always err on the side of a day or two before trying to get your application in. And then for me, contact me if you need support, if you're thinking in a sectoral area and either you don't understand who you need to speak to, you want some steer on, I guess, some of the grants that might be available. You might need a sectoral contact within the KTN or regional contact within Edge. I've put some links there, but please prod me if you feel that you need extra support. And I'm happy for any questions if there's any clarification you need from that. Stop sharing.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Louise. That's great, really informative, and lots of interesting and useful hints and tips there as well, that I'm sure that would be very popular and helpful to everybody. Are there any questions for Louise?
Yeah, from Jamie. Just one point was you can actually submit and then you can edit, can't you, after that? Because that came up with someone on a smart grant the other day, and
and then add extra if you need to. So as long as something's there when the deadline hits, great.
Yeah, they were desperately waiting for the accountant to just assign something off or to just underpin something. So they slept better the night before having submitted, I think. That was the thing. But I did have someone who tried to copy and paste everything at the hour before and ran out of time and was very upset. So they're great grants, aren't they, if you get them? And yeah. And
there is a tendency, isn't there, to kind of get everything in. You think, well, I'll get it in a couple of days before, but all of a sudden you're on the actual day. It's always best to get it in early. work
Yeah,
on it.
I've not seen that slide before, Louise, but yeah, that looks about right in that Friday.
Yeah.
When you get phone calls, it's 8 o'clock on the Tuesday night before they're submitting on the Wednesday, saying that asking questions. That gets a bit yeah, a bit frustrating. I do have colleagues in England who don't support. You know, they won't take the phone call, which isn't fair.
Okay. Anybody else? Anything to answer me?
Hi, Louise. Thank you very much for your presentation. It was really informing. A couple of like comments or question on my side. So we are still on the startup stage, of course, and we recently started our sort of product development journey. We started off more on a consultancy based type of thing. I know my company, when I wasn't there, they applied in the past to a smart grant from Innovate UK. They failed at that. However, we did have a couple of conversation over the past months around, applying for this type of funding. But there are basically two challenges that we face from a conceptual point of view. So the first one is around the timing and the time frames. Of course, we are a self-funded startup, so we have to make sure that cash comes in frequently, and we can't basically do like long-term research projects without any sort of pivots or whatsoever. So we're pivoting on literally a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Therefore, sometimes I know the time frames around these grants might be, longer than the speed that we want to go. So by the time we get to the grant, the the problem we're facing might already be, it could be solved internally, or might be irrelevant already. So sometimes we kind of don't apply because we know we'll have to wait like 6 months to get some sort of funding, and that's a big challenge, which I'm sure I'm not the only one facing in the group. And the second one, you mentioned quite clearly about, having a structured plan, an idea of how the solution is. But, sometimes, especially for, product development in the early stages, there is a lot of discovery work that needs to be done. And it's, per se, tautologically, it's like exploratory and discovery work. So how would you balance those two aspects, and do you have any recommendation of any specific funding which are more applicable to our situation than anything else?
I would say yes. I get your pain of when you apply for grant, it might be several months before you hear that you're successful, but there is movement internally to shorten that time frame, so that if we've run a call, that the notice that you're going to get the grant and the start date is slimmer. So that is work in progress. I'm hopeful that will get better across all of the portfolio grants that we offer. And I guess that kind of flexibility, we know that from projects. So if you start a project thinking that you were going to use this particular type of technology and recognise that it's not, you work with your monitoring officer to say, well, actually, we need a change request, and that's quite simple. I think the more complicated change requests are if you try and ask for more money, or you're moving partners around, but it is possible. So don't feel right, you've gone down an avenue and you thought that you were going to do this thing, but actually that doesn't work. That's what innovation is. It's all about learning. And so don't feel your project can't continue. Your monitoring officer should be, if you're successful, you get assigned a monitoring officer. They should coach you and be the person for you to kind of engage with, to say, well, actually, all right, we recognise it won't work. Submit me a change request, and I'm happy that you proceed in a different innovation direction.
Yeah, I actually, sort of experienced that in a slightly different situation, because I was a KTP associate for 3 years before landing this role. And, we did that quite a lot, but I don't know if it was up for, to the experience and, helpfulness of the monitoring officer, or, it was a completely different project, which is a KTP and not, a smart grant. So whether that's more sort of fixed, or, you know, the scope is more fixed and caged, other than a KTP. But from what you're saying, that's exactly the same.
I mean, it's probably quicker from a KTP. I was an ex-KTP associate many years ago. So I know exactly what you're talking about. It's probably simpler with a KTP project because you've got an industry driving that. And if they're not happy with the direction of what your project is, then you've definitely got a problem. But I would say from an Innovate Grants point of view, completely, it has to be flexible in innovation.
Yep. Thank you, Liz.
Charles?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Louise. Really interesting. So we've been around for, I guess, 4 years now. We're in the sustainability space where we automate sustainability disclosures for large public companies. We've made quite a few grant applications previously and never been successful. So we weren't sure whether it was us or we were doing something wrong. But I wondered, are there people out there like consultants who specialize in helping companies like ours be more successful when we make applications and avoid some of the pitfalls? Is that a service that exists locally that we could tap into?
I would say, Charles, if you've already applied, you'd have had your scores on the doors, I'm going to say, but you will have had some feedback in the kind of the numbers that you get for each question. If you aren't connected into Innovate UK Edge within the locality, they will always be the eyes and ears on a grant. If you wanted somebody to have a look through, I would recommend you engage with, where are you based, Charles? You South Wales?
Yeah, Newport.
Yeah. I'll connect you into the team in the South and pass your best one across and just get some feel for which elements maybe you weren't as strong on. I find it's often not the business idea and the innovation that's the stumbling block. It's often some of the storytelling in the other sections. You can use a consultant, you know, and I would never advocate it because we have to remain impartial. And they can work as long as they understand your sector. But I would say in the first instance, use Edge as a partnership to see if they can, you know, have a little look at it and say, well, actually, what you should have said here is, and you've missed the boat with this bit here, tweak that, and let's go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, technical question, or sort of technical question. I've got my project's carbon capture with Robert Lim's project. We got the patent granted in May, so we're developing it, but we're probably about TRL 3. Is there anything, because the IETF is TRL 8+, isn't it? So is there any low TRL funding that you know that's coming up for proof of concept or development?
Where would the project base be, Jamie?
Either Flintshire or MSpark. We're speaking to Bangor Uni at the moment with the Low Carbon Energy Centre of Excellence. There you go.
It's a shame that it's not in South West Wales, she says, from my net zero launchpad.
Oh, the industrial decarbonisation cluster in South Wales.
Yeah, just because my launchpad is based around that cluster. So if you're thinking net zero, there is probably something imminent coming up within that region, but your project has to impact on that region or have some partner in that region. But there probably are lots within the slides I've given there, Jamie, that I think would be within that sweet spot. That investor one, I mean, you're well tapped into investors anyway. I think that area is in that sweet spot, but investors typically, like to be a higher TRL level. But
yeah, it's still getting there, but now we've got the patent. We're looking at various things. I'm interested in the smart FIS anyway that's coming up. So with you, Ant, so we shall see. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Okay. Nobody else now? But you know, if there are, I'm sure that we can pass any questions on to Louise by email, and we'll get those messages back to you. Thank you ever so much for coming in this morning and for venturing through the snow to get here. Really grateful for that, and be careful on the way.
Yeah. Thank you. Good luck, everyone. Please do contact if you need me.
Okay. Thanks very much, Louise. Take care. Thanks. So, do you want to take 5 minutes now, Lizzie, or?
Yeah, we can take a quick 5 minutes, grab a tea or.
Yeah, and then we'll do 5. So it's 10:40 now, so we're back at 10:45.
Lush.
Okay.
See everyone then.
See you in a bit. That's fine. Okay, so our second speaker this morning is Iwan Palmer. He's an innovation specialist at Welsh Government. He's worked as a Calin Senior Innovation and Business Liaison Officer at Cardiff University prior, and also worked at Queen's University in Belfast. Iwan's going to talk to us this morning about the innovation strategy and the innovation grants that are available through Smart Fizz through Welsh Government. So we're kind of working today through the grant system that might be available to you as well. So there's a few things out there. So I'd like to hand over to Iwan now, who's going to share the screen with you as well. Diolch, Iwan.
Diolch. Just get this set up. Can you all see that, hopefully?
Yes, diolch, Iwan.
Yep.
Okay, great. So good morning, everyone, and thanks for the invitation to speak today. So as already mentioned, I'm Iwan Palmer. I'm an innovation specialist at the Welsh Government, and today I'll just give you a quick overview of the Smart Flexible Innovation Support Programme, which you'll often hear shortened to SmartFizz or SFizz. And I'll also cover the other complementary support potentially available through the innovation team at Welsh Government. Hopefully that'll skip slide. Looks like I'm a bit slow this morning as well. Oh, there we go. So yeah, I'll start off with a little bit of background. So last February, the Welsh Government published a strategy document called Wales Innovates, creating a stronger, fairer, greener Wales. And this strategy is focused around the 4 mission areas you can see towards the centre of this graphic. So education, economy, health and well-being, and climate and nature. So I'll just go through these very briefly. So from an economy perspective, we're looking for innovation which has a focus on commercialization and therefore drives economic impact and the creation of new jobs. In terms of education, it's obviously important that we equip our children with the skills they need to innovate, and the implementation of the new curriculum, which has a pillar focused on entrepreneurship, will support that and ultimately contribute to developing innovation skills which will lead to a well-educated workforce. Health and well-being, unsurprisingly, looks to use innovation to improve health, well-being and the provision of care in Wales. And in that note, it's also important to point out and to remember that our NHS is both a developer and a user when it comes to innovative products and services. And finally, climate and nature. So to achieve our commitment to net zero targets by 2030 and 2050, innovation is obviously going to be imperative, and there's going to need to be investment in renewable energy innovation. So those 4 missions have been laid out with a vision for Wales to be a leader in developing, evolving and delivering flexible research development and innovation support to meet the needs of organisations like yourselves. To achieve this vision, we need to do these 4 things listed here. So firstly, obviously, we have to align with the programme for government commitments. So we've got to increase support for RD&I to exploit the innovative products, processes and services that can deliver the greatest benefit for Wales, and have to do this all while keeping in mind the Future Generations Act. Secondly, we've got to nurture sustainable growth through RD&I in order to increase the number of innovation active organisations and therefore ultimately improving levels of productivity. Thirdly, we need to grow a collaborative RD&I environment. So this means increasing industry-led collaboration, RD&I projects and clusters and facilities which have long-term growth potential. And finally, we've got to support public procurement of innovative solutions. This is in order to increase the use of these innovative solutions in addressing public sector and societal challenges in Wales. So moving on to roles, we very much see our approach in Welsh Government as a partnership, so working with you to help you develop and achieve your RD&I goals. And these roles are as much for you as they are for Welsh Government, although SmartFizz will also act as an innovation lead, a partner and a co-investor to help fill any gaps in capability and capacity that's holding an organisation back from what Welsh Government call innovation excellence. Oh, sorry, I skipped a bit too far ahead there. So let's dive straight into SmartFizz. The SmartFizz scheme has the aim of helping Welsh organisations achieve this innovation excellence by increasing research, development and innovation capability and capacity. And this is in order to increase the number of organisations that are active in innovation and to increase investment in RD&I. And achieving this notion of innovation excellent isn't easy. It's about the reality, really. It's about better productivity, reduced waste, participating in the circular economy, and decarbonisation. And these things can all lead to increased profitability by doing things differently. And it's also important to remember that what innovation excellent looks like will be different for each type of organisation. So this is one way in which the journey towards innovation excellence can be visualized. You might be an organization that's not currently active when it comes to innovation and need to start by developing an innovation plan, or you may be further along this journey and already innovating a little or even quite a lot in some cases. And organizations can enter this process at any stage, and the support offered is not all financial. You'll have noticed the word flexible in the title, and we aim to be as flexible as possible in how we support organizations. For organizations with limited innovation plan activities, funding of up to 25,000 per annum at around a 50% intervention rate is available for activities that contribute to the development of a detailed innovation plan. And this funding of up to 25,000 is known as the level 1 of SmartFizz. So what sort of activities would be eligible under level 1? Well, that largely depends on the organisation, and applications are assessed on a case-by-case basis. But level 1 activities are usually focused around demonstrating technical and commercial feasibility, though. So small-scale proof of concept or feasibility studies could be eligible, particularly if these are collecting preliminary data to support a larger application, like some of the ones that Louise mentioned earlier. But equally, market research, regulatory research, and economic viability research could also be eligible. We're not just looking for ideas that are technically sound, there also needs to be a clear route to market. So with all this in mind, eligible costs for a level 1 could be something like direct staff salaries, subcontract research and consultancy, secondment of personnel, and small amounts of consumables. And this level 1 support is often used as a precursor for the SmartFizz level 2 support. Although it's important to note that the level 1 is by no means a prerequisite for this. Again, it comes back to flexibility and what suits any given organisation best. We've got multinationals that decide that they'd like to apply for level 1, and we have pre-revenue startups who decide that going straight for level 2 would best serve them. So what is level 2? Level 2 support is up to £100,000 a year over 2 years at around a 50% intervention rate. And this is to carry out innovation plan activities. So given the increased funding, the detail expected in the application and associated documents is greater, but otherwise the eligible activities are very similar to level 1, but clearly much more work can be undertaken because there's greater funding for things like staff time and consumables. So how does it work? Well, the first step is to get in touch. If you look at the innovation section of the Business Wales website, you'll see details of SmartFizz along with lots of other resources and other potential funding opportunities. And you can also access this presentation from there if you'd like to see some of this information again. On that same website, you can also register for a SmartFizz Innovation Support meeting. And this is where you can discuss your ideas with members of the innovation team to see whether you're likely to be eligible for support. And there's also an inquiry form there so that you can, if you complete that, you can get a response from a member of the innovation team about your idea. But one of the first things you'll be asked for is for a business plan. This is a prerequisite for both level 1 and level 2 support. So if you don't have a comprehensive business plan, you'll be directed to Business Wales, who have good information online on how to write one, and advisors who can support with this. But if you already have a good business plan, then you'll be assigned to an innovation specialist who will work with you to develop an innovation plan and an appropriate application. The specialists in the innovation team come with thousands of hours of industry experience between us. So we know how to support organizations to innovate and progress by increasing their RD&I capability and capacity. And in addition to the SmartFizz level 1 and 2 support, there's several other ways which the specialists can support organizations too. For example, there's currently small funds available to help organizations to access design support and productivity support, as well as intellectual property support. And of course, given the knowledge and experience within the team, we can also signpost you to potential collaborators in industry, academia, or healthcare, both in Wales and further afield if appropriate, who may be able to help with your challenges. And going back to the flexibility I keep mentioning, we'll also consider collaborative proposals for organisations in Wales where all of the parties stand to benefit from SmartFizz support. So there's a lot of reasons why an organisation may want to access smart flexible innovation support. For a new organisation, innovation might mean accessing technology to get a new idea off the ground. For a developing organisation, it could be support to grow a project that you already know is technically and commercially viable. And if you're a very established organisation, it might be something like bringing in specialist know-how to give you an international edge or to help to open up new export markets. And it's worth mentioning as well that for a lot of organizations, circular economy and decarbonisation is obviously a must for the future. And we've got ways of helping with that too, which I'll come on to. So what information do we need to get the ball rolling from an organization? Well, I've already mentioned the business plan, which is the first step for all prospective applicants. The next step is an innovation plan, which identifies short, medium, and long-term goals and includes some innovation activities that have been identified that are related to products and or processes which propel an organization towards their goals. We expect to see some sort of plan or vision, basically. We provide a template for an innovation plan, but this can also be presented in a way that best suits your organization. So something like a slide deck or a roadmap illustrating where you are now and where you want to get to would also be fine. If you have a collaborative activity in mind, all partners will be involved in scoping the activity, and they'll all need to share the risks and the benefits, but you will need to identify a lead applicant to submit the plan on behalf of the consortium. So who can access this support? Again, I'll come back to flexibility. It's a theme throughout this. Any organisation in Wales is potentially eligible, and that includes businesses of any size, academic institutions, health boards, and charities. For businesses, any size is fine, but you have to be registered and based in Wales. And I'll come back to it again, you have to have a business plan. In terms of how much is available, I've already covered that, but just to reiterate the point, SmartFizz level 1 is up to £25,000 over up to 1 year at an intervention rate of around 50%. And SmartFizz level 2 is up to £100,000 per year over 2 years, and again at an intervention rate of up to 50%. So now that you've got an idea of what's involved in an application, how are they assessed? Well, decisions are made by a panel of experts from across Welsh Government, and 3 main areas are assessed. Firstly, the level of innovation and the benefits to the organisation or collaboration. Secondly, the benefits to Wales. And thirdly, the viability and likelihood of success. So hopefully these are all fairly self-explanatory, but just for example, for the level of innovation and benefit to the organisation, we'd be looking for things like an improved technology which would allow an organisation to improve their market position, as an example. For benefits to Wales, we're looking for things like increased employment, carbon savings, increased research income from outside of Wales, and so on. And for likelihood of success, we look at things like, does the organisation have the skills to deliver their proposed plan? Is the organisation financially viable enough to deliver the plan? And is there a market for the innovation if it's developed? So now I'll finish this presentation by covering the circular economy funding available through Welsh Government, because I know that'll be of interest to some of you. The innovation strategy I mentioned at the start of this presentation sets out cross-government working to support and deliver innovation-related activities, and using the SmartFizz approach that I've just been describing, an organisation can apply once and get support for both innovation and circular economy activities. So in line with Welsh Government's Beyond Recycling strategy, the Circular Economy Fund supports investments in things like manufacturing processes to increase the use of recycled and reused content in products or components, or extending the lifetime of products and or materials through preparation for reuse, refurbishing, or remanufacturing activities. This support, it'll help to deliver mid and long-term impacts and benefits, driving capability and capacity for engagement in research and development. And this is with an aim to increase resource efficiency and economic activity related to the circular economy in Wales. The application process for this circular economy funding is largely the same as for SmartFizz, but the funding available is greater. So in this case, it's up to £200,000 a year over 2 years, but still at an intervention rate of around 50%. The SmartFizz level 1 can be used to work towards a circular economy application, or this funding can be standalone. It's also possible for this funding to be in addition to the £100,000 per annum available under a SmartFizz level 2. So you could potentially take your total funding to £300,000 per annum over 2 years. Again, in terms of the information we need to see, it's broadly similar to what I described for SmartFizz. We want you to tell us about your ambitions for RD&I, but this time in a circular economy context. Again, you can do this using the innovation plan template that's available, or from existing materials that you already have that outline your vision for innovation. What needs to be achieved in a circular economy project? Well, at least one of the following outcomes will be expected. So increased amount of recycled, reused, and remanufactured materials used in a new or existing product or process, or reduction in carbon dioxide emissions, or reduction in waste, improved productivity, new or improved products or processes developed or introduced, or even obtaining a recognised relevant BSI standard or kite mark. But bear in mind, though, that for the circular economy funding, there's a requirement for both innovation and a circular economy aspect. So innovation is still front and centre here. How the circular economy applications assessed? Well, in more or less the same way as the Smart Fizz application, but those of you who've been paying close attention will notice that, as well as the 3 areas that I covered during the Smart Fizz part of this presentation, there's now an additional criterion under consideration by the panel, and that is sustainability and reduction in virgin raw materials. So we'll be looking for how the use of input materials will go beyond what's current normal practice, and how the innovation increases demand for recycled, reused, and or remanufactured materials. So the 2 key words here are innovation and circular. A successful application will obviously need to be innovative and will need to have an element of circularity to it. So I've probably spoken for long enough now, and this presentation, as I mentioned, is available online on the Business Wales website, along with a lot of other very useful resources. But hopefully we still have some time left for questions now. So if anybody does have any questions, please go ahead and ask. I'll stop sharing now so that I can actually see you once again, and we can go from there.
Any questions there? Got any hands up? Jamie.
Hi, thanks for that, Ewan. Yeah, no, interesting. Couple of questions. I've got an energy tech development at tier L3, so it's quite specialist. Would that fit? But I suppose the first one would be, when you say a business plan, do you want a 2-pager, a 5-pager, a MBA level type thing? What exactly do you mean? It's a
certainly not an MBA level. We're not, we don't want a book, because somebody's got to have to read and assess this, but it needs to be a comprehensive business plan, covering things like where you are at the moment, your finances, your future plans, your competitors, how you propose to access the market, just a general plan of how your business is, where it is at the moment, and how it plans to progress.
Do you want financials as well, or do you want cash flow, profit and loss, balance sheet stuff, or do you want it just as the outline?
The outline is fine for the business plan. The company financials will be required for an application to SFIS, because part of the assessment criteria is to make sure that company is financially viable to deliver the proposed project.
But you mentioned pre-revenue, so you said some businesses pre-revenue go for level 2. Is that normal, or do you want to go through the process of level 1 pre-revenue, and then when you do when you're further on? Because we're energy tech at tier L3, so it's going to be a while before we get to revenue, but the potential's good when we're there. We do have a pattern.
It's horses for courses. As I mentioned, we do have early stage startups who are pre-revenue and have successfully applied for level 2 funding, and equally we have billion-dollar multinationals who decide actually we want level 1 just to give us a bit of thinking space to plan ahead.
Because they obviously need it from Welsh government, then, though. $1 billion. Great, thanks. Okay, thanks for that. Note to aim for.
Thank you, Jamie. Anybody else? There's a lot to take on there, and it's good to see that there are grants available, and as regards accessing these the grants now, there are a team of innovation specialists within Welsh Government. Now, are they geographically placed across Wales so that people know who to contact with?
So yes and no. At the moment, the innovation team is a little bit short. We're currently trying to recruit 3 new innovation specialists. traditionally, we are geographically based, but we also all have our areas of expertise as well. So I cover the southeast of Wales, but I also lead on life sciences. So I travel the length and breadth of Wales when needed, if there's a particularly technical life science inquiry that comes in. So it all depends on the company and what they're trying to achieve. You know, we can't claim to have somebody who's an expert in every sector that might want support, but we try and put the best fit towards the company in that case.
Thank you, Iwan. Diolch. Okay.
So
Right.
just to add to that, if you go through the Business Wales website and through those processes to contact us, either through the query form or through one of those SFIS meetings, you'll quite often be assigned, the message will come in centrally and you'll be assigned to the most appropriate person through that process.
That's good to know. Thank you. So I'll keep a note of that anyway. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Anybody, Lizzie? Any questions from yourselves at Drumshed or?
No, it's just me here. So no questions this end.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so diolch yn fawr iawn, Iwan. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I think we've had a lot of information to digest this morning about all the Smart Phase grants, the circular economy grants, and also the Innovate UK as well. So I think it's a good starting point really as we move through the accelerator to have that information to hand and know who to contact with as we move through the actual programme itself. So it's really good to know as you develop your ideas and look at how you're going to apply for funding to move your businesses forward as well. So it's really useful. The next session is on the 25th of January. That's going to be at Tramshed or online. We'll be joining from here in Numspark. And that's all about the importance of connecting the green industries. And that's with Dr. Steve Jones of Battery. So that should be another great session. Any general questions about the accelerator whilst we're on now, or are you all quite happy with how things are going?
One thing I can signpost you all to is that yesterday I added, as part of the programme, we'll be running one-to-ones. So we're looking to get those in next week. They're running over Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday between 3 and 5. So on the portal, you can book those in via this. We've linked Calendly with it. If those times won't work for you, just pop me an email and we can work something else out. But we've kind of blocked those times out just to kind of get as many in as possible. So that'll just give us an idea of kind of where, like, chat to you one-on-one, find out where you're at, how we can specifically support each one of you individually, and kind of any connections you're looking to make whilst you're on the accelerator. It'll give us a chance early on to kind of get the ball rolling with those. And I think after Kai's session last week, he's got a couple of ideas. He was jotting down things during the session. So yeah, we'll be able to go over those as well. And the only other thing to flag is just that within the portal, kind of leaving feedback after each session. It's really good for us to understand what was useful about each session and kind of what maybe else could be added. So yeah, if you could all take the time to fill out those feedback forms in the portal, that would be great too.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Okay, so that brings us to the close then of today's session. Great to see you all again, and we'll catch up with you next week. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.